On a cold winter day, I set off alone in my car, heading deep into the Alaskan mountains for a hunting trip. I relish the solitude, but I'm always aware of the dangers of the wilderness. So, I prepared thoroughly, packing enough supplies and emergency gear. The weather forecast showed no signs of trouble, but in the mountains, weather can be unpredictable. In the afternoon, the sky darkened suddenly, and a fierce blizzard swept through the area. I hurriedly gathered my game, planning to return to my cabin. The snow stung my face like sharp arrows, and the howling wind nearly blinded me. As I trudged through the blinding snow, I quickly realized I was lost. The familiar woods had become strange and menacing in the storm. My heart raced with a fear I had never known before. If I couldn't find shelter, I might not survive the blizzard. Just when I was about to give in to despair, I spotted the outline of a cabin ahead. With all my strength, I struggled towards it. Pushing open the door, I felt a rush of warmth, but also an ominous sense of foreboding. Inside, the cabin was pitch black. I fumbled for a switch or matches. Suddenly, I heard a deep breathing sound from a corner, sending my heart into overdrive. I tried to calm myself, thinking it might be another hunter seeking refuge. Cautiously, I asked, "Hello, can I take shelter here?" But there was no answer. The silence was broken only by the sound of deep breathing, seemingly drawing closer. My heart pounded, warning me of an unknown danger lurking in the darkness. As my fear reached its peak, a sudden knock on the door jolted me from my terror. I hesitated, wondering if I should open it. In such conditions, any disturbance could mean a new threat. Carefully, I approached the door, took a deep breath, and slowly opened it. There stood an old hunter, weather-beaten and ragged, but with a look of desperation in his eyes. I quickly let him in and shut the door. The old hunter explained that he had gotten lost in the blizzard and was lucky to find the cabin. His presence made the atmosphere inside less oppressive. But as we talked, I realized that the mysterious presence in the corner had vanished. I looked back at the corner, finding nothing but darkness. The deep breathing and ominous atmosphere had disappeared as if they had never existed. This realization left me feeling strangely unsettled, as if everything I had experienced was an illusion. The old hunter noticed my confusion and softly told me a tale. The cabin once belonged to a hermit who mysteriously disappeared in a storm, making the locals consider it an ominous place. His story replaced my fear with curiosity. All night, I pondered the secrets of the cabin and the identity of the mysterious presence. As the night deepened, the old hunter's tale added to the cabin's eerie atmosphere. The legend of the hermit's disappearance made me wonder about the true nature of the mysterious presence. My curiosity mingled with fear, creating an indescribable tension. Lying in the corner, staring at the blurry ceiling, my mind was filled with thoughts. The blizzard outside gradually calmed, but the atmosphere inside grew heavier. I contemplated what the mysterious presence could be, a ghost of the hermit or a figment of my imagination. Or was it all just a product of solitude and fear in the mountains? In the dead of night, I could even hear my own heartbeat. Each beat reminded me that the cabin held secrets unknown. My mind replayed the deep breaths and the silhouette, searching for clues. Just as I was about to get lost in thought, I heard something moving outside. I sat up alertly, a sense of foreboding rising within me. Was the mysterious presence returning, or was it just an illusion caused by the storm? I stared tensely at the dark doorway, half expecting something to burst in. But apart from the wind, all was silent. The uncertainty and unknown fear kept me awake all night. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight shone through the window, I finally relaxed a bit, but the mystery of the mysterious presence still lingered in my mind. As I left the cabin, I looked back, filled with questions. What secrets did this cabin hide? And who was the mysterious presence? On a chilly winter day, I was driving to a remote work assignment. Along the way, I stopped at a busy gas station to take a break, refuel, and grab some snacks. That's when a young woman, seemingly with developmental disabilities and in her mid-20s, approached me. She appeared confused and anxious, explaining that her friends had left her behind while she was using the restroom and now needed a ride to a town a couple of towns over. She didn't have a phone or any contact numbers to call for help. The gas station employees confirmed she had been there for over an hour, trying to hitch a ride. Faced with this situation, I made a decision I had never made before to give a stranger a ride. Although I wasn't heading to her desired town, I could drop her off at a busy supermarket in the next town, where she might have an easier time finding a ride to her destination. Shortly after we hit the road, I noticed a van in my rearview mirror that seemed to be following us. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but the van continued to tail us even as I changed routes. My heart started racing, and a sense of foreboding washed over me. I tried to stay calm, but the tension inside me was mounting. Meanwhile, the woman's behavior became increasingly unusual. She asked to play with my phone, which I refused, explaining it was for work. Her face flashed with displeasure, and then she suddenly became excited, claiming she remembered her boyfriend's phone number and insisting I call him right away. I explained that due to local regulations against using a phone while driving, we would have to wait until we reached the supermarket. But she grew more agitated, raising her voice and almost commanding me to stop and call immediately. My fear intensified as the van loomed closer in the rearview mirror, like an ominous shadow following us. As we neared the supermarket, the van closed in, almost tailgating us. The woman's mood swung wildly, and she began to argue loudly, insisting I take her home. I stuck to the original plan, but my nerves were stretched to the breaking point. I quickly pulled into the supermarket parking lot, my heart pounding, worried about what the people in the van might do. I scanned the area for help and, fortunately, spotted a sheriff's deputy's car near the entrance. I immediately sought his assistance, ending the unnerving standoff. The deputy approached and asked what was happening. I briefly explained the situation and whispered that a van had been following us. His presence brought a moment of relief, but the tension inside me lingered. He told the woman that since she had reached her destination, it was time to leave my car. Reluctantly, she got out, and when I asked again for her boyfriend's number, she suddenly claimed she didn't have a boyfriend and pointed to the van, calling them her friends. At that moment, I realized this might have been a well-orchestrated trap. The deputy and I exchanged a knowing look. He took my contact information and said he would delay the van for about 20 minutes while checking their license and registration, advising me to leave immediately. He also reminded me not to pick up strangers, especially under such unusual circumstances. I left the supermarket, filled with reflections on the experience. I realized that while helping others, it's crucial to protect oneself. This encounter taught me the importance of staying vigilant and avoiding potential dangers, no matter the situation. The deputy later called to confirm I had safely reached my destination and informed me that they were keeping an eye on the van and its owner. Although unsettling, this experience was a valuable lesson, reminding me to always stay alert and ensure my safety on future journeys. On a cold Canadian winter night, I stood alone by the fitting room in a department store located in the heart of the city. The store, usually bustling, was eerily quiet post-Christmas. I had been working here for 2 years, and although retail wasn't my first choice, it was a welcome change from the food industry. That night, the store was unusually silent. The heavy snow and biting cold seemed to keep people nestled in their homes, away from the harsh winter. As a result, the store had fewer staff on duty, leaving me alone to manage the fitting room. While I was busy organizing the clothes on the racks, a tall man, dressed in an expensive suit, entered the fitting room with 2 dress shirts. He seemed like a businessman who had just finished his day. Following protocol, I handed him a numbered tag and asked him in French to hang the clothes back after trying them on. He responded in a thick accent, which I couldn't quite place, possibly Russian. After he entered the fitting room, I continued with my tasks. When he came out, I thanked him as he returned the clothes. But as I turned to put them away, I realized he hadn't left. He just stood there, his gaze seemingly hiding some intention. As a 5'4" girl, I'm not great at handling such situations, and I felt increasingly uneasy. He then asked for my name, which I gave him, looking down at my name tag. He complimented my name, and I laughed awkwardly, unsure of how to respond. I tried to remain polite, but my discomfort was growing. He then said he would wait for me at 9:30 p.m. outside the store to take me out. Confused and frightened, I wondered how he knew when my shift ended. I politely declined, saying I needed to go home to study, but he didn't take no for an answer and stepped closer, making me even more uncomfortable. Desperate, I made an excuse to call my manager. He finally left the fitting room when he saw me on the phone. I reported the incident to my manager, who instructed me to alert security. The security team had already noticed him on their cameras. That night, after finishing work, 2 of my colleagues escorted me to my car. I was terrified, even paranoid that he might follow me home. Since then, I never leave the store alone and always remain vigilant about my surroundings. This experience taught me the importance of speaking up when someone makes you uncomfortable, whether at work or anywhere else. You should never have to endure such discomfort. On a snowy winter day, I was living alone in my newly moved-in house, nestled in a quiet, suburban neighborhood. The world outside was blanketed in a thick layer of snow, casting a serene silence all around. That day, a blizzard had shut down my workplace, granting me an unexpected day of leisure at home. I had set up my basement as a cozy game and TV room, where I was spending most of my time. Lying on the couch, half watching TV, half daydreaming, I was enjoying my lazy day. Suddenly, a series of loud and urgent knocks on the door shattered the tranquility. The sound pierced through the soundproof walls, reaching my ears with startling clarity. My heart skipped a beat. Who could it be in this blizzard? A friend, perhaps? Or was it some kind of emergency? At first, I decided to ignore this unexpected disturbance and continue with my TV time. But a growing sense of unease and curiosity eventually compelled me to check it out. Cautiously, I peeked through the curtain, only to find the snow-covered street empty. Just as I was about to close the door, I noticed a black Cadillac creeping slowly down the street. There were 4 people inside, and one of them was just climbing back into the car. Our eyes met for a moment, and I felt an inexplicable surge of tension. My heart raced as I tried to guess their intentions. Their unusual behavior, especially in such a storm, seemed out of place and ominous. I watched the car intently, feeling as if time had frozen. The look in that person's eyes seemed to carry a sinister foreboding, sending a chill down my spine. I quickly shut the door, my mind filled with confusion and fear. Later that day, I learned from the news about a shocking home invasion that had occurred not far from my street. 4 people, thinking a house was empty, had broken in and tied up the woman inside, robbing her at gunpoint. A shiver ran down my spine. Could those 4 people be the same ones I had seen earlier? If I hadn't gone upstairs to open the door, would they have thought my house was empty too and chosen to break in? This incident led me to deep reflection. Every small decision in life can impact our safety. I still remember the look in that person's eyes, weighing the risk of breaking into my house with me inside. Since then, I've become more vigilant and cherish every day of peace. This experience has profoundly taught me that the world we live in is not always safe and calm. We must always stay alert.